I stood frozen at the doorway of my bedroom, my breath caught in my throat, my vision tunneling in on the scene in front of me. Emily, my wife, in our bed, with another man. They didn't even notice me at first. The guy, some tattooed, gym rat loser, had his hands all over her while she moaned his name like I never even existed. My fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms, my heartbeat a thunderous roar in my ears. And then, she saw me. Her eyes widened, not in guilt, not in fear, but in annoyance. Like I was some kind of inconvenience for walking in on my own wife, desecrating our marriage in our bed. "Oh," she scoffed, sitting up, the sheets slipping off her bare shoulders. "You're home early." I couldn't breathe. My world was spinning. Everything in me screamed to tear this guy apart, but I just stood there, paralyzed, suffocating in the weight of her betrayal. Then she had the audacity to roll her eyes. "Are you gonna stand there all night, Jake? Or are you gonna grow up and deal with this like an adult?" Like an adult? Like an adult? I took a slow step forward, my body trembling, my vision blurring with rage. That was the moment I knew. This wasn't just cheating. This was war. I don't know how long I stood there, staring at the two of them. Emily, sitting up in our bed like she didn't just shatter everything we built, and that bastard, barely covering himself, looking between us like he just realized he'd made a mistake. A mistake? No. This was calculated. This was planned. This was the ultimate betrayal, and I was the fool who had been blind to it for months. I exhaled slowly, trying to keep my rage from boiling over into something irreversible. My hands curled into fists at my sides, my knuckles turning white. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like my ribs might crack under the pressure. Emily sighed dramatically, flipping her hair over her shoulder. "Oh my God, Jake. Don't just stand there like some movie villain. What? Did you think I was going to wait around forever while you... Get out." The words left my mouth before I even realized I had spoken them. Emily's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" I took a step forward, my entire body coiled with barely restrained fury. I said, "Get out. Both of you." The guy, Brandon, or whatever the hell his name was, grabbed his clothes off the floor, stumbling over himself like the coward he was. Good. At least he had enough sense to know he wasn't walking out of here in one piece if he stayed any longer. But Emily? She had the audacity to laugh. "Are you serious right now?" she said, raising an eyebrow. "Jake, you're embarrassing yourself. You knew this was coming." I flinched like she had slapped me. "I knew?" She shook her head, standing up and reaching for her robe, as if casually discussing the weather. "Come on, let's not be dramatic. Our marriage has been dead for a long time. I just finally stopped pretending." I felt something inside me snap. "The marriage you pretended to care about while sleeping in my bed with some random guy?" I growled. Emily rolled her eyes, tying her robe lazily around her waist. "First of all, he's not random. Brandon is someone who actually knows how to make me feel wanted, unlike you." Brandon. That name burned itself into my brain like a brand. I could hear him rustling behind me, trying to slip out of the room unnoticed. I turned sharply. "If you take another step toward that door, I swear to God." Brandon froze. Emily scoffed. "Oh, please, Jake. What are you going to do? Throw a tantrum? Break something?" She smirked, folding her arms. "You're not that guy." I took a deep breath, exhaling through my nose. She was right. I wasn't that guy. I wasn't going to throw things, scream, or get physical. But I also wasn't going to let this slide. I turned back to Brandon, who looked like he wanted to melt into the floor. "I'm giving you 10 seconds to get out of my house before I make sure you regret ever meeting my wife." Brandon didn't wait for me to count. He bolted, practically tripping over himself in his rush to escape. That left just us. Emily, standing in front of me with zero remorse, her arms crossed like she was the victim in all of this. I let out a bitter laugh, running a hand through my hair. "So this is who you really are." Emily shrugged. "I stopped pretending. You should be grateful. Grateful. Grateful." A part of me wanted to scream at her, shake her, make her feel even an ounce of the pain she had just carved into my soul. But she wouldn't. She was too far gone. "You're disgusting," I said finally, shaking my head. I don't know what's worse, the fact that you cheated, or the fact that you don't even care. Emily tilted her head, her smirk widening. You'll get over it. That was it. That was the moment I knew. There was no fixing this. No therapy, no second chances, nothing. This woman, the woman I had built a life with, the woman I had loved, was gone. Or maybe she had never been real to begin with. I turned on my heel, heading straight for the bedroom door. Where are you going? Emily asked, sounding more curious than concerned. I stopped just long enough to glance over my shoulder, to burn every trace of you out of my life. And then I walked away. I didn't stop moving. Not for a second. As soon as I left that room, I knew. I had to destroy every trace of her from my life before she could infect it any further. My body was running on pure adrenaline. My mind a whirlwind of rage, betrayal, and something deeper. Something darker. She thought I would just walk away? No. She was going to regret every second of what she did to me. I stormed into the living room, grabbed a trash bag from under the sink, and started ripping everything she owned out of my house. Shoes? Gone. Her designer bags that she begged me to buy? Tossed. The expensive perfume she drenched herself in before meeting that pathetic excuse of a man? Straight into the garbage. I wanted her erased. Emily came strutting out of the bedroom, her arms crossed, watching me with a smug expression. Seriously, Jake? You're being a child. I didn't even look at her. You're so dramatic, she sighed. This is why I needed someone like Brandon. He actually acts like an adult. That did it. I turned slowly, my hands shaking, my breath uneven. You think this is funny? My voice was low, controlled, but dripping with the kind of fury that should have made her afraid. Emily didn't flinch. She actually laughed. Oh, come on, she smirked. It's not that deep. People cheat, Jake. It happens. You need to get over this little victim complex you've got going on. Little victim complex? I clenched my jaw so tight it hurt. Let me get this straight. You bring another man into our house, into our bed. I catch you, and instead of an apology, you insult me? That's the angle you're going with? Emily rolled her eyes. What do you want, Jake? Tears? Begging? I'm not sorry. I did what I wanted. I got what I wanted. You were just too pathetic to notice. The world blurred around me. My vision went red. I needed her gone. Now, I stalked toward her, getting close enough that she finally, lost that smug look. Get your stuff. Get out. She scoffed. Or what? I turned, grabbed her precious framed wedding photo off the shelf, and hurled it across the room. It shattered against the wall, glass exploding everywhere. Emily gasped, eyes widening. Are you crazy? No, I said, my voice deadly calm. I just finally see you for what you are. She stared at me, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to say something. Some final insult, some last piece of venom to spit my way. But for the first time since this nightmare started, she was speechless. I grabbed another one of her bags, this time her favorite designer purse, and before she could stop me, I tossed it into the fireplace. The flames licked up the edges, black smoke curling into the air as the expensive leather began to burn. Jake! She shrieked, lunging forward, but I blocked her path. You're done here, I said, my voice steady. You don't get to humiliate me in my house and then act like you still belong here. Her breathing was erratic now. You're insane. I shrugged. Maybe, but at least I'm not a lying, cheating parasite. Her face twisted in rage. You can't do this to me. Oh, I think I just did, I said, stepping aside and motioning toward the door. Now pack your S***T and go. Unless you want to watch the rest of your stuff go up in flames. She hesitated. For the first time, she actually looked nervous, like she was realizing that I wasn't the same man she had walked all over for months. Good. Emily huffed, snatching what was left of her things and storming toward the door. She hesitated for just a second before turning back to me with one final glare. You're gonna regret this. I smirked. No, Emily, you will. And with that, she was gone. But I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. The second the door slammed behind her, I stood there, listening to the silence she left behind. Empty. Not just the house. Me. For years, I built a life with that woman. I gave her my love, my trust, my time. And for what? So she could spit in my face and tell me I was too pathetic to notice her betrayal? So she could bring some random bastard into our home and act like I was the fool for being faithful? No, she was not getting away with this. I turned back to the fire, watching her purse melt into nothing but a pile of ash. Good. That was just the start. Time to make her feel what I felt. I grabbed my phone, scrolling through my contacts until I found the one person I needed right now. David, my best friend, my brother in everything but blood, the only person who had warned me about Emily from the beginning, and the only one who would have my back now. I hit call. It barely rang twice before he picked up. Yo, what's up, man? Thought you were on date night with the wife. I let out a bitter laugh. Yeah, about that. Turns out she had date night with someone else. Silence. Then, David's voice dropped. Tell me you're joking. I swallowed hard, my throat tight. Wish I was. A sharp exhale. Where are you? At home. I ran a hand through my hair, pacing. She just left. Took her stuff and walked out like she didn't just burn our entire marriage to the ground. I'm coming over. No need, I said. I need you to do something else for me. A pause. Jake, what are you planning? I looked back at the fire, my heart pounding with a dangerous kind of clarity. I want to ruin her, David. A low whistle. Damn. All right. What do you need? I clenched my jaw. I need to know everything about this guy. His name is Brandon. I want to know where he lives, where he works, what kind of car he drives. I want to know what matters to him so I can take it away. David exhaled. You're serious about this? Dead serious. A beat of silence, then. I'll call you in an hour. The line went dead. Time to get to work. I didn't waste time. If Emily thought she could cheat and walk away without consequences, she was about to get a brutal reality check. First, I went to our shared closet. Anything that belonged to her? Gone. Every dress, every pair of heels, every expensive gift I ever gave her. All in the garbage. Then, I went to the bedroom. The bed where she betrayed me. I ripped off the sheets, tore up the pillows, and dragged the mattress outside. It reeked of her, of them, and I wasn't going to sleep another night surrounded by that filth. I tossed the mattress onto the lawn, grabbed a can of lighter fluid, and set the whole thing on fire. The flames roared to life, the heat licking at my skin, but I didn't move. I just stood there, watching it all burn, feeling nothing but satisfaction. Let her see this when she comes back. Let her know this is what she did. My phone buzzed in my pocket. David. I answered. Talk to me. Got what you need. Brandon works at some corporate office downtown. He's got a girlfriend, by the way. They've been together for 5 years. I froze. What? David chuckled darkly. Yeah, man. Turns out your wife wasn't just wrecking your marriage. She was helping him wreck his, too. I clenched my jaw. You have her number? Sending it now. A second later, my phone pinged with a new contact. Natalie, Brandon's girlfriend. A slow smirk spread across my face. Emily thought she could get away with this? That she could destroy me and walk away without consequences? She had no idea what was coming. I hit call. The phone rang 3 times before she answered. Hello? Her voice was soft, cautious. She had no idea. Natalie? I kept my tone calm, almost casual. You don't know me, but I think we need to talk. A pause. Who is this? I exhaled slowly. My name is Jake, and I have some information about your boyfriend, Brandon. Information you're going to want to hear. Silence. Then, a sharp inhale. What are you talking about? I could hear the shift in her tone, the instinctual fear of a woman who already suspected something was wrong but didn't have the proof. I was about to give it to her. Brandon's been cheating on you, I said, blunt and unforgiving. With my wife. A long, heavy silence. Then, her voice, tight and trembling. That's not funny. I'm not joking. I gave her everything. The dates. The places. The proof. Every single moment I knew of their affair. I laid it out for her in brutal, undeniable detail. I could hear her breath hitch, hear the way she was barely holding it together. You're lying, she whispered, but I could tell. She knew I wasn't. Check his messages, I said simply. I'm sure you'll find plenty. A rustle of movement, a choked sound. Then, her voice, sharp and shattered. That son of a b asterisk asterisk sich. I let that sit. Let the reality sink in. Then, I gave her an offer. You want to make him pay? Silence. Then, her answer. Yes. 30 minutes later, we met at a small cafe downtown. Natalie was stunning in a classic, effortless way. Long chestnut hair, striking green eyes, and a presence that radiated quiet strength. But tonight, those eyes were rimmed red, her hands trembling as she clutched her phone. She had the proof now. Screenshots, voice messages, undeniable betrayal. She slid her phone across the table. He told me he loved me yesterday, she whispered, voice thick with disbelief. He looked me in the eyes and told me I was his everything. I picked up the phone, scanning the messages. Brandon, you're my world, baby. I can't wait to marry you. Brandon, she doesn't mean anything to me. It's always been you. Brandon, I swear, I would never hurt you. And yet, there were the texts to Emily, just hours later. Brandon, that was insane. You drive me crazy, baby. Brandon, he's such an idiot. He has no idea what he has. Brandon, next time, we won't have to rush. Sickening. I set the phone down carefully. So, what do you want to do? Natalie exhaled shakily. I want to ruin him. A slow, dark smile crept onto my lips. Then let's do exactly that. We planned it down to the last detail. Brandon was scheduled to have a big corporate event in 2 days. A career-defining moment. The kind of thing that determined promotions, raises, and how his bosses saw him. Perfect. Natalie still had access to his social media accounts. Big mistake, Brandon. She had his passwords, his logins, and most importantly, his work email. Within an hour, we had drafted an email, attaching every single screenshot, forwarding it to his boss, his coworkers, and even his mother. Natalie typed the final words, her fingers shaking over the keyboard. This is the kind of man you're working with. Thought you should know. She had sinned. And just like that, his life detonated. The fallout was immediate. By the next morning, Brandon was done. His boss sent him a formal notice about unprofessional conduct. His coworkers blasted him in the office group chat. His mother? She left 14 voicemails, each more furious than the last. And Emily? Oh, Emily was in full meltdown mode. She called me 17 times. Left messages that flipped between screaming and fake tears. I let them all go to voicemail. Then, I sent her a text. Me? Actions have consequences. Enjoy them. No response. But I knew. I had finally won. Later that night, as I sat back with a whiskey in my hand, my phone buzzed. Natalie. A single message. Thank you. I smiled. For the first time in weeks, I felt free. Emily showed up at my house at 2 a.m., banging on the door, screaming my name. I didn't answer. Instead, I sat back on my couch, sipping my whiskey, watching the security camera feed on my phone. There she was, barefoot, hair a mess, mascara streaking down her face like some kind of deranged lunatic. The once cold, calculating woman who had strutted out of my life like she was untouchable. Now she was desperate. I let her pound on the door for a while. Let her scream. Let her feel the humiliation she had never expected to experience. Then, finally, I stood, walked to the door, opened it just a crack, and looked her right in the eyes. What do you want, Emily? My voice was calm, cold, the exact opposite of hers. Her lips trembled. Jake, please, just let me talk to you. I leaned against the frame. Oh, now you want to talk? I let out a low chuckle. Funny. Last time we spoke, you told me I was pathetic, that I was too weak to do anything about what you did. Her breath hitched. I didn't mean that. Sure you did. I tilted my head. You meant every single word. And you know what? You were right. Her eyes widened. What? I gave her a slow, easy smile. I was weak. I stepped closer, watching her shrink back. I let you humiliate me. I let you lie to my face for years. I let you bring another man into my home, into my bed, and I didn't even see it. I leaned in, just enough to watch her shudder. But that's over now. Tears welled up in her eyes. Jake, please. No, I cut her off. You don't get to please me. You don't get to cry and pretend you're the victim here. Her hands balled into fists. You ruined my life. A slow smirk crept across my lips. Good. She let out a strangled gasp. How could you do this to me? You had no right to. I burst out laughing. Actually laughing. The pure, insane audacity. How could I do this to you? I repeated, shaking my head. Emily, you did this to yourself. You wanted an open marriage? Well, guess what? It's wide open now. Her face contorted with rage. You're disgusting. I gave her a mock-pitying look. And yet, you still showed up here in the middle of the night, hoping what? That I'd take you back? Her lips pressed together, her entire body trembling. Then, she did what she always did when she couldn't control the situation. She lashed out. This was your fault, she spat, stepping closer, her finger jabbing at my chest. You let our marriage get boring. You let yourself get stale. Brandon made me feel alive again. And if you weren't such a weak little... I grabbed her wrist. Not hard, not violently, but enough to stop her. She froze. I looked her dead in the eyes. If you say one more word, Emily, I swear to God, I will make sure you have absolutely nothing left. Her breath hitched. For the first time, she looked afraid. Good. I released her. Now, get off my property. Her eyes darted around, searching for something, some kind of upper hand. But there was nothing left. I had taken everything. Tears streamed down her face. Jake, I loved you. I tilted my head. No, you didn't. She sucked in a sharp breath. Then, with one last sob, she turned and ran into the night. I watched her go, my heart steady, my hands relaxed. No regret, no sadness, nothing. For the first time in years, I was free, and it felt damn good. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. My phone was flooded with messages, some from mutual friends, some from Emily's family, and a whole lot from Emily herself. The first few were desperate. Emily, Jake, please, I'm sorry. Can we just talk? Emily, I know I messed up, but you didn't have to destroy my life like this. Please, I need you. Then, the tone changed. Emily, you think you're so smart, don't you? You think you won? Emily, enjoy this little victory, because I'm not done yet. There she was. The real Emily. The moment she realized crying wouldn't fix things, she fell back on what she knew best, manipulation and threats. I smirked as I scrolled through her messages, shaking my head. She really thought she still had power over me? Not anymore. I ignored her, blocked her number. Then, I got up, stretched, and made myself a strong cup of coffee. Because today was divorce day. At exactly 10 a.m., I walked into my lawyer's office, feeling lighter than I had in years. James, my lawyer, was already waiting. He leaned back in his chair, giving me a knowing smirk. You look like a man who finally decided to stop getting walked all over. I let out a short laugh. Something like that. He slid a thick folder across the table. Everything's ready. You just have to sign. I flipped through the papers, scanning the details. James had done exactly what I asked. The divorce was filed under infidelity and emotional cruelty, which, in our state, gave me the upper hand. Emily wasn't getting a damn thing. No alimony. No house. Nothing. I tapped my pen against the paper, exhaling. She's gonna lose it when she sees this. James smirked. Good. I signed. And just like that, it was done. 2 hours later, Emily did, in fact, lose it. I was back home when she showed up again, pounding on my door like a lunatic. I almost didn't answer, but then I thought, why not? I opened the door just enough to see her, wild hair, furious eyes, hands clutching a crumpled document. You son of a **C, she shrieked, waving the divorce papers in my face. You're leaving me with nothing? I leaned against the doorframe, smirking. That's right. Her hands trembled as she clutched the papers. You can't do this to me, Jake. I gave you years of my life. I raised an eyebrow. Oh, you mean the years you spent screwing another man in my house? Those years? Her mouth opened, closed. No excuse. Face it, Emily, I said, my voice steady. You lost. Her breath hitched. She knew it was true. She never thought I would fight back. Never thought I would be the one to walk away and leave her with nothing. Tears welled up in her eyes. But this time, I felt nothing. No sympathy. No guilt. Not even anger anymore. Just satisfaction. I stepped back and closed the door in her face. For the first time in years, I was completely done with her. That night, I poured myself a drink and sat out on my back porch, looking up at the stars. My phone buzzed. A single message. Natalie, Brandon just got fired. I chuckled. Perfect. Emily was ruined. Brandon was ruined. And me? I had never felt more alive. The morning after Emily's meltdown at my doorstep, I woke up to a strange sense of peace. The kind of peace that comes when you know you've finally cut out the poison that had been slowly killing you. No more sleepless nights wondering where she was. No more second-guessing myself. No more Emily. I poured myself a strong cup of coffee and stepped outside to breathe in the crisp morning air. The world felt different, lighter, like I had finally woken up from a nightmare that lasted too long. Then my phone buzzed. It was Natalie again. Emily's losing it. She's been calling everyone, trying to find someone to take her in. Nobody wants to deal with her. I smirked at the message. Not surprising. Emily had spent years thinking she was untouchable, acting like she was above everyone else. But the moment she lost her grip on her perfect little world, people saw her for who she really was. I took a slow sip of my coffee, scrolling through the rest of the messages. Apparently, Brandon had packed up and left town the second he lost his job. He didn't even bother telling Emily, just took off, probably realizing he wasn't ready to deal with the mess she had become. Karma. With nothing left, no home, no money, no Brandon. Emily was desperate. And that's when she did the one thing I thought even she wouldn't dare. She called my mother. An hour later, my phone rang. I sighed the second I saw the caller ID. Mom. I answered. Yeah. Her voice was tight with controlled frustration. Jake, I just got off the phone with Emily. I rolled my eyes. And she's crying, saying she has nowhere to go, that you threw her out with nothing. She wants to talk to you. I let out a bitter laugh. Of course she did. Even now, after everything, Emily still thought she could manipulate her way back in. She made her bed, I said, my tone firm. Let her lie in it. Mom exhaled slowly. I told her the same thing. That actually surprised me. She betrayed you, Jake, she said, voice soft but firm. She lost the right to ask for anything from you. I nodded, feeling a strange warmth at her words. Thanks, Mom. She's desperate, though, she added. I think she might try something. I frowned. Like what? I don't know, she admitted, but I'd keep an eye out. By the afternoon, I had nearly forgotten about my mom's warning, until Emily showed up one last time. This time, she wasn't screaming. She wasn't crying. She just stood there, on my doorstep, looking hollow. Her once pristine hair was tangled. The designer clothes she always flaunted were wrinkled, like she had slept in them. For the first time in years, she looked small. I didn't invite her in. I didn't even say anything. I just leaned against the doorframe, watching her. For a moment, she didn't speak either. Then, in a quiet, broken voice, she whispered, I don't know who I am without you. The words hit harder than I expected, because the truth was, I didn't know who I was without her either. For years, my life had revolved around pleasing her, loving her, fighting to be enough for her. And now, standing there, looking at the wreckage of the woman I once loved, I realized something. I had spent so much time chasing after her approval, after her love, that I never stopped to ask myself if she even deserved mine. She didn't. She never did. And she damn sure wasn't getting it now. I took a deep breath. You'll figure it out. Her lip trembled. Jake, please. I shook my head. Goodbye, Emily. Then I closed the door. For the last time. That night, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I didn't feel anything at all. Just freedom. I poured myself a drink, stepped out onto my porch, and looked up at the stars. Tomorrow, I'd start over. As my own man. Not the man who loved Emily. Not the man who was betrayed. Just me. And that felt pretty damn good.